Hey folks, thanks for tuning in another week and downloading, subscribing, rating, reviewing on iTunes, Stitcher, and all that other good stuff, man. This is the Live Life Aggressively podcast. Sincere Hogan, that's me, my man Mike Mahler on the line. What's going on, my man?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. We have a great guest today, and we're going to start talking to him in a little bit. But before we do that, just some shout outs to people that have been supporting the show. And what they're doing is they're using coupon code LLA, and they're going over to my website and using that coupon code to get 10% off anything you see there. And just a couple examples of our listeners that have been taking advantage of this. Travis Niles, we got Mark Bonner. That's not Boner, Bonner.
Bonner.
And Kevin Odell. Bonner.
Bonner.
Michael Salazar, Ronald Mitchell, Jamie Brakefield, and those are just a few people that I just grabbed from the list right before we came on the show. Thanks a lot, guys. It's because of guys like them that a lot of you that have never supported the show are able to listen to the show. So you guys I should give out their emails so that you can
Don't
thank
do
them
that
as well. So that you haven't supported the show. And
awesome,
what's been going on with you, man? You've had some people using the code over at your site?
Yeah, same thing, man. They've been heading to newwarriortraining.com using the same coupon code. People have even used the coupon code for a recent certification that we did with IKFF. So, big shouts out to my man Patrick Peden and also to Rob Exline, who helped us host the event. But Rob not only helped with that, but he also became a supporter through Patreon. So, and that's easy to do that. Just head over to patreon.com, patreon.com/LLA podcast. Become a monthly supporter of the show that way. Whether you're buying our products or not, you can still be a big part of the show by doing that. So Rob stepped in, he became a Patreon supporter, as well as Brad Koltak and also Donna Minton. So got those Patreon supporters steady coming in each and every show, man, each and every week. So we really appreciate that. Again, it really helps us keep the production going and also keeps us free of ads where, pretty much you're getting the underwear of the month along with $1, razor and all that other madness that you hear on every podcast, and the same hosting companies that's going to help you build a better website, which is pretty much just going to be a template, and you're going to look like everyone else's website because you're too lazy to go out and do it yourself, or have someone that you're going to hire overseas to do it for you. Just use that template and look like everyone else. Yeah, that's good for business.
Yeah.
If
a website's as easy to use as Facebook, it's probably not going to be a very good website at the end of the day.
Because Facebook is still difficult for a lot of people. So yeah, man. So yeah, big shouts to everybody that is supporting the show. Again, creating a way for those who are not supporting the show to actually enjoy the show. So this is what you need to do. Don't be that guy. At least hop over to Patreon and contribute. Wipe out that $1 bill. Start off with $5. Contribute each month to the show, man. Just like the person that sat there. I was just thinking about this. It's just like the people that watched PBS, like, well, I don't watch all those shows on PBS, but tell me this. If you had kids, tell me there's been a day where your child didn't watch Sesame Street, okay, or something like that. Some Sesame Street, Electric Company, all those shows. And hell, a lot of you, because your education came from Sesame Street or whatever, and you may not contribute one dime to PBS. There's a good reason for that you should contribute to that, because they kind of help raising your kids before you put them in school, as far as education wise. They're assisting you with the education of your kids. So you sit there and not contribute to PBS, man, it's a bit of a disservice. So we're not going to raise your kids. I'm going to say that now. But one thing we do each and every week, we do our best to help raise your awareness. And that's one of the reasons why, like, hey, man, step on in, become a monthly Patreon supporter, and we'll greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, and we're going to stop talking about this because a lot of people have probably fast forwarded by now to get to our guest.
Exactly.
And that's okay. Just leave a review for us, all right?
Yeah, there you go.
Now, our guest today is top strength coach Vince McConnell. We've had him on the show a few times, and he's a fan favorite. A lot of people give us great feedback every time we've had him come on. And we have a fun topic today. He reached out to me and said he'd love to come on to talk about pet peeves in the fitness industry. And this is something that all three of us can definitely chime in. In fact, we could even chime in from some stuff that we talked about on the last episode that we'll carry over, that we'll address here. But before any of that, Vince, how you doing today, man?
Man, I'm great, Mike. Good to be with you guys again.
Oh, great to have you on,
man.
So pet peeves in the business. First of all, how long have you been in the business, Vince?
32 years. 32
Wow.
years. And again, like we talked about, I think it was on the last episode that I was on. That doesn't mean I've been pushing and pulling stuff for 32 years. I've actually been training live people for 32 years. So it's you talk to some people now and they say, well, I've been in the business for 10 years. And you're like, well, you're 22, well, I started working out in my mother's basement.
When I was
like,
12, I trained my friends at the park.
Exactly.
That counts.
Exactly. You told them what to do and they followed you. And so with with that, and we always every time I've been on the show, we've touched on a few things, and that's why I said, we probably just need to do a whole episode on this. And the thing is that when you're in it as long as I have, you do tend to become a little crusty, and I'm sure guys like Maxwell and some of the other guys could probably follow up and say the same thing. You've seen a lot that's really good and a lot of progress and everything, and it's not like you're throwing everything out with that, but with that, you see some things that actually water down the whole industry, especially when it comes to a coaching standpoint. You get to where people confuse cheerleading with coaching and coaching with cheerleading. And it really is aggravating because I have to deal with a lot of that when I have new clients come to me, or if they're long distance clients designing programs for them, and I have to undo a whole bunch of shit before we can even get to the stuff that matters. Because everybody now thinks that they're an expert, even your clients. They come to you and they tell you, well, this is what I've been doing, and why did you send me this program? Why are we doing this? And even, clients one-on-one that you're working with, and they're always questioning everything. And again, not so much questioning what I do, but I see it a lot in the industry. You see it when you read Facebook and everything. Everybody's got to chime in about what somebody's doing wrong. And the reality is that I can walk from here to the mailbox and back, and somebody can say that I did it incorrectly. It's not that difficult to be a critic.
Like, your gait was way off, man, on that stride over to the mailbox. Come on,
then the paralysis by analysis happens, and then you get to where you just don't even enjoy what you're doing anymore because you're thinking about it so much. You're overanalyzing.
It reminds me of people that are just really anal about technique, right? And I'm all about optimal technique. I think you should emphasize optimal technique. But some people take it to an extreme where they never make any progress because they're so paranoid that if they increase the weight, their technique is going to go to the wayside.
Yeah, and that too. The thing is that it works on both sides. You have people that actually throw all caution to the wind completely, and then you got the other extreme. And the thing is, just like with everything, the truth is in the middle.
Right, exactly.
Like, a lot of heavy reps are not going to be perfect, but that doesn't mean they're not worth doing. You just gut those through. But that's with experience, right? You wouldn't put a novice through that. Let's get the technique dialed in and all that. But my max on a deadlift is not going to look as clean as, say, one of my warm-up sets on the way there.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that we have to take into account your condition. You can handle technique that is not spot on better than somebody that is not in the condition that you're in. And that's another thing is that, and there's the irony, is that the more experienced you are, the better able you are to get away with not doing things spot on. And so, and that's another thing, like, whether it's an athlete, landing in a certain way, and you go, wait a minute, they're about to, snap their ACL, and you go, well, they've trained enough to where they're able to absorb that kind of impact. Whereas if you took somebody off the street, had them do the same plyometric move, they probably would snap in two.
Now, somewhere there's someone that feels like they've been lifting long enough, and they hear that now. They're like, see, now I can get away with bad technique. No, we're not giving you permission to start doing things with bad technique just for the sake of trying to lift heavier and heavier. Take your ego and just remove it out of the situation right there. You still need to be smart.
We've all been guilty of that, though, right? Where we're just chasing heavier weights, where we're going, screw it, I'm just going to move up here. And it takes a lot of discipline to have patience to dial things in. So generally, the point I brought up is usually not the issue we deal with, where people are so concerned about technique. It's usually the opposite. That's the problem that's more ubiquitous, that's more pervasive, where people are in such a rush to get to those intermediate levels or advanced levels that they compromise technique, get injured, and then they blame the system.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Vince, what else do you have for us with these pet peeves?
Well, the other thing, training legalism, kind of feeds off of what we were just talking about. All the have-tos. You have to do this, you have to do that. If you don't do this, and I call it the pomp and circumstance of training. And see, what happens is that everybody knows about warm-up now. So now everybody spends 45 minutes warming up before they even get to the lift. And then in its own way, as we've talked about mobility on every episode I've been on too, and I'm a huge advocate of that. However, there's a point where you need to get to where you dial in your mobility work. I recommend we all do it in the morning. I think it's one of those things that you can do earlier in the day and not have to do it right before you work out. Right. It's, but the thing, what happens is that everybody goes, well, I've seen 12 different videos on YouTube. I've seen, all this other information out there on how I need to mobilize everything from your pinky finger to your pinky toe and everything in between. And what happens is that those people get confused and then they stop all of it. Then they just completely throw everything out and don't do any of it. And I've got the luxury, if you will, of working both with teams of 100 plus as well as individuals. So I see the grand scope of how this is applied all the way through.
Yeah.
A lot of people just either one or the other. They either work with groups, large groups or teams or individuals. And on a weekly basis, I have to see, everything in between that. So I understand that the program is only as good as its application. If I give somebody a program and it's got every I dotted, every T crossed, and it just looks perfect on paper, but we can't apply it, it's useless.
Right.
And so, it'll impress. I mean, I could send it to colleagues and go, wow, that's a great program. But, the thing is, if, you take a client or an athlete and they take a look at it and they have that look of a dog looking at a new bowl, not wondering if they should eat out of it or not, you've already lost them. And then if you can't apply it, then, common sense would tell you it's of no use. But you see more and more of, this. And when I review programs, I have guys send me programs. Hey, what do you think of this program? I'm like, I'm already confused. I need somebody to be able to decipher this and then translate it, even with me understanding where it's supposed to be going. And I'm still confused by it. So again, it goes back to that paralysis through analysis, that over analysis of, do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? No, you just push, pull, squat, hip hinge, do core stability.
Yeah.
And then when you need to add complexity to it, then you add complexity to it. Most people start out with the complex stuff, and then they try to simplify it from there. And then that ends up being a huge compromise.
Yeah. Kind of getting back to what you were talking about, the just warming up and the joint mobility and all that. Now, Vince, do you think there is a place though? Because one thing about it now that there's so many choices on YouTube about joint mobility. Oh, I got to warm this up and do this type of warm up and all that. Do you still think there's a place sometimes where you just to even just test yourself, to not just sit there and spend 15, 20 minutes with a warm up, do something really light, if anything, maybe just a couple lifts, just kind of mimic what you're about to get into. Let's just say if I'm getting ready to go into a deadlift, a sub-maximal deadlift, why would I want to spend 20 or 30 minutes warming up for a sub-maximal set? Where some people are like, no, I have to get my warm up. I can't start without my warm up. Why not just, go ahead and lift the bar just so you can start just getting your body programmed into that movement. Just sit there and just take the bar by itself or a trap bar deadlift. And then just sometimes just actually test yourself out some days where you just go and just do a lift without warming up for it. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times we want to train like it's real life. Not everyone's going to be training for a meet or something like that. Sometimes things happen in real life where you're not going to have time to warm up. If there's a car on top of a kid, you're not going to sit there and okay, hold on, baby. Let mommy warm up and, do some joint mobility before I try to lift this thing up so I don't pull my back, or something like that. Yes, a very extreme example, but again, there are times in life where you're not going to have time to warm up. You're going to have to do it right then and there. So why not train like that in the weight room every now and then? So why does everything always have to be, okay, I got to do my 10-minute warm-up. I got to do my joint mobility drills. I have to do my stretching.
And a lot of the research shows that warming up does not prevent injury. Actually, more times when they've done studies, it actually showed the opposite of. I think what warming up does more than anything else is it mentally prepares someone for physical activity. Right. You're putting your body through ranges of motion, so you're loosening yourself up. But there were Bulgarians, Sincere, who got to the point where they could just take their max weight off the pins when they squatted or pick up their max weight on a clean. Mm-hmm. They trained themselves to do exactly what you just said, where they wouldn't do a lot of warm-ups. They got to the point where they could just walk in, and I'm not recommending this for the average person for a lot of reasons, but they just got to the point where they didn't want to waste time on any of those warm-up sets. And they trained themselves to have the ability where they could just go pretty close to their max sets, and in some cases, their max sets. Right. I think we're using the example of heavy deadlifts, all those warm-up sets I do, which are never more than 3 reps, right? So if I'm going to pull 505 for 3, it might be 135 for 3, 225 for 3, 315 for 3, 405 for 3, 455 for 2, and then bam. The point of all of that is just to get me mentally prepared more than anything else, because it would be daunting for me to walk in the gym and just load it up to 5 plates on each side and without testing the waters with a lighter weight, just go for it.
Right.
Yeah, you guys are spot on. And I was going to say that the thing about the Bulgarians as well is that it's a basic, look at it as a psychophysical rehearsal. In other words, you're rehearsing both mentally, as you said, but also you're physically getting into the groove. What you don't want to do in a warm up is you don't want to burn your set. In other words, you don't want to start in, and that's another thing that I learned from Clarence Bass way back is when the warm up that he does is so, when you look at it, it's so small compared to what most people do. And then you look at, where he is in his training career. And the thing is that he's very efficient with his warm up time. And that's something that, of course, I've, probably go beyond that with everything that I do and you guys as well. But the thing is that even with somebody at his level, and he used to do a lot of Olympic lifting as well, is that you don't want to get to where you start tapping into the type of energy that you need for your actual work sets. And what I mean by that, your nervous system, you only got so much to go into that workout, to invest into the actual work sets, into that workout. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to, as Clarence would always say, take the edge off of your actual workout in your warm up. And a lot of guys now, they turn the warm up into the workout.
Yeah. No, a lot of times the warm ups don't even make sense. Like I saw a guy the other day he was working up to a heavy bench press, so 135 for 10, 225 for 10. And then he was doing low reps with 315 or something. I go, why don't you just do low reps on the warm up sets on the way there? Because doing several sets of 10 is really not going to do much for your low rep heavier sets. It's going to take away energy.
Exactly.
So,
it's two things going in opposite directions at that point. Now, the only exception would be, some of the news that's coming out on hypertrophy. There's, I know there's a came out that said that when you start with reps as high as say 50, and then you work all the way down to a heavy set of 5, and so you're ramping up in weight, and that's specific to hypertrophy work more than it is to what we're talking about with strength. You'd never do that in strength, and so when you're working for performance, you definitely want to look at it from the standpoint of what do I need, what's the least amount I can do to best prepare me to hit my target today, and then anything more than that is going to take away from your workout. Now, it might be a little bit of trial and error as you go along, but the thing is that when you take information from each workout, so that when you go into a session, you go, okay, last workout, I did that one extra warm-up set of 5, and I probably only needed to hit 1, say, before I went into my first work set, and things like that, and take that and journal it, and then understand what you need to do, and you'll be amazed at how efficient that you can make your warm-up process as you go along. And then, Sincere, what you were talking about earlier about just basically just scrapping the formal warm-up altogether, totally agree with that. I do that quite frequently, and actually I've gotten to that stage in my training to where I do my mobility stuff first thing in the morning. When I say mobility, somebody can just call it dynamic warm-up, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. But I do that every morning. Then I'll lift later. I lift much later in the day. My first I typically like to break in my workouts into 2 brief sessions. I find at this stage in my life, I progress better that way. My body responds better to 2 brief 25, 30-minute sessions. And if you watch me go into these sessions, I don't do any formal warm-up. I may roll out my thoracic spine if it feels like it's, before I do any heavy bench press, anything like that, or any kind of pressing. But there's not like this 10, 20-minute warm-up that I'm doing because I do my mobility stuff early. And then if I'm feeling something in my my hips, something like that, then I'll add a little extra stuff in, but it's all by need and by the appointment of that specific time, as opposed to me, going, okay, I've got to go through my 15-minute warm up before I can touch a weight. So you do want to look at it as mobility and then psychophysical preparation. Again, mind-body preparation to go in and get the job done that you're looking to do.
Yeah. I think with a lot of people is they actually create an injury because if they're used to warming up and they think they need to warm up to avoid an injury and then they don't, now they're going in worried. They're going, okay, I didn't warm up, so I got to be careful here. And then if something goes wrong, they automatically blame it on the fact that they didn't warm up when it's probably because their technique was off because they were distracted from this paranoia that something's going to go wrong.
Yeah, and the thing is, your mental, when you go wherever your mind is, when you go into, especially when you're working on the edge, as far as your heavier sets, if you will, right? Wherever you are. For instance, if you've had a personal issue, something that's working on you, whether it's, financial, social, something with, a girlfriend,
Right.
I won't say wife, even though I'm married, but of course we never have any issues. But, but if you go in and you've got a slight bit of confusion, and I know you guys can relate to this, especially once you get to a certain level, then you need, if that junk is on your mind and you're getting under the bar for a heavy back squat, you're best to back out, clear your head, and then go back underneath the bar, and then use it as literally as a ritual, how you address the bar, because the likelihood of you getting hurt is much higher if you've got your mind on something else.
Yeah, especially barbell squats. I mean, you don't want to be thinking about the 20% APR in your Capital One credit card you've got. You just took a heavy weight off the pins. That shouldn't be paramount on your mind.
And that goes right back into the mental rehearsal of what a warm up. The benefit of a warm up is that definitely. It does help get you into that groove. It helps that ritual.
It builds confidence.
It primes
so much. Yeah, it builds confidence. When I'm doing deadlifts and I'm hitting those warm-up sets, and let's say I'm about to pull 5 plates and I hit 405 and it feels easy, it feels light. My confidence is huge going into the next set. And in some ways, it's a good barometer of whether I should do the next set or not. If for some reason it feels really heavy and the bar speed is low, then adding more weight is definitely not going to improve anything. So it's a good assessment tool for you as well.
Yeah, and it keeps it specific too. Words, instead of you going in and really just having a general map, it keeps everything very specific to what you're doing at that time, as opposed to just going in and then winging it basically, and then hoping that something good happens out of it.
Now, what you guys are saying right now about the whole mental aspect and clearing your head, you're screwing with a lot of people right now, because so many people use that gym as their therapist, and they're like, you know what, screw my wife, screw her, she can't tell me what to do, or screw my boss, and they go into the gym and they want to train for 2 hours because that's where they go to escape life. So these are the people who are pretty much what we're talking about right now. They're the ones at the highest risk, because one thing they can't really do is clear their head, because they came there just for the fact of they're motivated by all the stuff that's going wrong outside the gym, so they can stay inside there. So it's kind of like, what do you even tell them at that point besides, actually, go deal with your shit in real life and not try to do it in the gym. You got to wonder about that. And I have a feeling a lot of times when you see these people who train for an hour, 2 hours or whatever in the gym consistently 7 days a week, there's a reason why you're getting hurt besides you're just overtraining. Mentally, you're overtraining. You're underthinking while you're in the gym, and you're overthinking when you're outside the gym, and you think the gym is going to cure all that. And I'm pretty sure they're listening to this right now like, screw that guy. He doesn't know what I'm dealing with. He doesn't know about my problems. And I don't want to know. Okay? So
they're going to send it right over to you. No, I remember a girl told me once, she goes, man, if it wasn't for my workouts, I wouldn't be able to tolerate the job I hate. And I go, well, man, you need to quit working out so that you can't tolerate the job and quit and go do something else instead of wasting time.
Here's my thing. Why? I got to ask this to anyone. Why are you tolerating anything? I'm sorry. You shouldn't be tolerating a damn thing in life. There's just no thing. You shouldn't have to just do that, because right now when you say you tolerate, it's like you're pretty much giving up your right, your principles or whatever it is for that, just to appease someone else and to make them feel more comfortable. Like, come on, man. That's already going down a slippery slope anyway.
I mean, you start going down that road, you're going to start using kettlebells that look like gorillas. I mean, there's no telling how messed up you can get.
Where
that was a slam dunk. That was like Sincere and I played like the equivalent of basketball in the podcast.
See, that was me.
Like, set it up, I grabbed that ball, bam.
That was me being Magic Johnson, and then that's Kareem over there going ahead and just slamming it and taking it home.
Like, I see what you're doing, Sincere. I'll take it.
The look away. Oh, man.
So what else is on this list of pet peeves, Vince?
The underutilized words whenever we're talking about anything related to training. All things being equal. That's always left out. You notice that when somebody gives you either some study that's come out or any kind of just, even as anecdotal, evidence to something, they leave out the all things being equal. Whenever they go, this is the best this is the worst this, never do this, always do this. They never really get to that. The fact is, all things being equal, yes, that is the best way to go. I mean, but when are all things being equal? I mean, and that's the thing that we've got to address, is that when we're talking about first of all, what are you training for? Are you training for muscle hypertrophy? Are we training for performance? Are we training for pure strength? Are you training for general fitness? Are you training for, to just look good naked? Are you training to be able to, get out of a chair? And that's in there. And then once you clarify that, then we start talking about what's the best for this, what's the best for that. And again, the fact that I train, just such a wide span of people, no two people are equal, and even if they're in the same category, so that when we start looking at the different categories, and then somebody can, in any magazine or on any website and say, you should only do this, you should never do this, and I see it all the time. It's like, how is that? That is so idiotic to even be able to breathe those words, when the fact is there is no such thing as everything being equal.
Well, careful, Vince, because you need to tread lightly, because according to our last episode, the last thing you want to do on this show, buddy, is do some science bashing. Sounds like you're science bashing, man. If you're questioning the studies, Vince, God help you. You better watch what you say, because we don't want to question science, because if it's a study, it has to be true for everyone, right? So that
just reminds me of what people.
I'll answer it with this. This is my quote. I've never heard anybody else say this before, but I know that everybody probably says they've said some version of this. There is science in everything that we do training wise, but it is not a science. There is science in it, but it is not a science. If it was, everybody, the three of us could all train exactly the same, have the same exact response, both mentally, physically, every other aspect that we're looking for to get from the training that we're applying, and we would all have the same response.
Now, that's a good point. I mean, a lot of studies.
We should all eat the same then. So since we all, our ancestors ate a certain way, all three of us should be eating like them, right?
well, then it's all about diet then. Then that's the thing is that then we can say
it's not a diet, Vince. It's not a diet.
It's 100%. It's all about.
It's a way of life, son.
It's all about nutrition. It's all about nutrition. And then we can say, hey, it doesn't matter how we train, because it always comes back to it's only nutrition. Now, we know how important nutrition is, especially when it comes into body composition. But what we're talking about is that all things being equal, now are they? Even the three of us talking right now, how much of what we're about is equal? It's probably very similar, but how much of it is equal? It's not. I mean, so that there we go again. Right. And it's not about, and again, we learn from all the scientific studies, and I'm not saying to just ignore all of it and just, stick your head in the sand and then take the other approach, which is just throw it up on the wall and hope that it sticks. Because you get that too. You get people, all you do is you go into these commercial gyms, or especially these anytime fitness or whatever they call them, everyday fitness stuff. And you go and you watch how each individual will go to the machine that nobody's on. And then they go to the most popular machines, and then they find their way around it. And it's basically go in and sweat and do something that makes you feel like you're doing something to alleviate the guilt of having not done anything. And then you hope that something good happens, because 9 out of 10 of these people, some of them may have a plan, some of them may have a program, will basically tell you, I'm just working hard. I've got to lose weight. I'm working hard because I want my biceps to be bigger. I'm working hard because in other words, they're thinking that there's something magical that's going to happen by them doing something as opposed to nothing. And anytime somebody goes, just do something, that's another of my pet peeves. I have an absolute abhorrence when I hear just do something.
That attitude right there can mess up the world right there. You're like, hey, just go do something. Well, I'm just going to go shoot up all these people because they don't agree with me. No, don't do that. Don't do that. So it's the same thing. Don't just do something. Have a freaking plan. Make sure that it actually has a benefit that's going to really enhance the situation and not take away from it. So think about that. But don't just try to wing it all the freaking time. There's sometimes there can be something said about winging it, just for the sense of adventure and just testing yourself like, oh, okay, it wasn't bad. But it's not something you do consistently, being just that guy that's just careless and reckless, because that's what's going to happen, because you're going to get some type of payback that you're not going to want when it comes down to it. And then it becomes like those people Mike was just saying, they blame the program then. Like, well, I was winging it and I was trying to do it this way and da-da-da-da, and it didn't work for me. That's not what they wrote down in that program, dude.
Well, see, that goes right back to the same thing about if we look at it just from the perspective of you two guys. For you two guys, say, go on vacation and you're 2 weeks away and you go in and you just have a modest facility that's got some, marginal equipment, a lot of, obviously most of what you're going to be doing is your body weight, and you guys winging it, I guarantee you it's going to be a productive workout. Even if I'm not even watching you guys and you guys said, hey, we trained for 2 weeks while we were away, I don't have any question because you understand principles. You understand you've had enough time in the trenches that you guys can get a good workout, a quality workout where it benefits you when you come back to your normal routine compared to somebody else that doesn't have that foundation and they go in and wing it. But see, they're winging it right down the street. I'm talking about you guys going on vacation and being away from your, from the common denominators that you typically have training wise. For you guys to go in there and get a quality workout in a hotel room is very likely. Whereas, guys that don't have any idea what they're doing and they go in, they take that same mentality every single day. So I agree with you. I think there's something exciting. You find out a lot about training, by scrapping your typical plan and just going in and saying, okay, I'm gonna go by feel. I'm gonna go by the old instinctive training principle, I think is what they call it. I mean, there's a lot to be gained from that. So we're not talking about, because then we go back to the training legalism thing too, where, you've got to have a plan and you got to follow it exactly according to this law or else. And that's the other thing that I segue into, the overutilization of 1 rep maxes. And I'm talking in terms of strength coaches too. We're not just talking about, guys training, men or women training themselves. We're talking about strength coaches, where strength coaches they live and die by the 1 RMs. And having trained enough guys like I have and understanding that kids, professional athletes, they all respond differently to percentages in that 1 rep max. Some of them are going to be stronger in a 5 rep max. Some of them are going to be stronger in a 1 rep max. So the thing is that you cannot assess their progress on a wall chart. Yeah. So you've got to, and we've touched on that in the past. Some are going to be better at their 1 rep max. Some are going to be better at their 10 rep max. And so it's all progress though.
It makes more sense to determine someone's fiber type. At least, then you don't have to take it to an extreme where you do a biopsy or something like that. But just look at how they respond to certain reps. Like I'm way better. I love training low reps and I love training heavy, but I'm naturally better for repetition work. So strength endurance type stuff, actually, I can move a lot faster in terms of gains with that. And then some other people are just fast twitch animals where they just are really good in that 1 to 3 rep range. And then if they take, let's say, 70% of their 1 rep max, they can't do much more in terms of repetitions compared to someone who has more slow twitch fibers.
Yeah, and exactly. But the thing is that you make progress in either case. But if you're limited in your mindset to only one or the other on that, and then it's first of all, it destroys your confidence and destroys your passion for training. But then at the same time, if you're dealing with a young athlete, that they're going to get hurt.
No, you're right. People max out way too often. You're definitely right about that. I mean, I see people maxing out almost every week on main lifts, and that's just way too often.
And the thing with, as far as, then again, you got to ask yourself, what am I training for? And that's another thing that some people just do not make the clarification. I mean, are you training? Is physique your primary purpose of touching a weight? If it is, you train differently than if strength is. Yes. And yes, there's some crossover. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be you're lifting weights in both cases, and then you have the general fitness.
Well, just real quick, Vince, just briefly delineate the difference between training for strength and training for size, and just like how you would break down a program. You don't have to go into extreme detail, but just a brief overview.
Well, training for strength, you're going to train, be as fresh as you can for each set. That's something that probably, and I know that I'm preaching to the choir when I tell you guys that, because you fully understand. I mean, everything that, for instance, we know from way back as far as strength training, and then, what Pavel, what he brought into the whole thing to basically commercialize it, is that you stay as fresh as you can, and then you make gradual increases that are quantifiable in terms of, the weights that you're lifting, as long as the mechanical integrity is there. Because if you're changing your mechanics as you're adding weight, you're not really getting stronger. So as long as you're technically sound with everything, and then you keep your reps low, and you're not going to failure. That's another thing that I'm not an advocate of. If strength training is your primary purpose in training, to increase strength, I'm not a proponent of going to failure. I think you should stop just this side of it. You can, if it happens, it's not like, okay, your program's dead, but at the same time, you should try to stay this side of going to failure. Muscle hypertrophy,
So you stop before you miss a reps. In other words, you're not going to do every set until you literally can't complete a rep, and then you stop. You stop shy of that.
Exactly. And then volume wise, you use just what is needed, not how much you can stand. And that's another thing. In other words, if you're hitting 4 sets and the kid goes, well, I want to add 2 more. Why? Why? Why do we need to add 2 more? Why do we need to leave the weight room, just completely drilled?
Because more is better. More is better.
That's a pet peeve that all of us, I think, can agree with, where some people, the goal is fatigue. If they're not completely wiped out after – I had some people take a workshop and they were disappointed that they weren't wiped out afterwards. I go, it's not a boot camp. The point of a workshop, it's a 6-hour day where we're learning techniques and so forth. And I have to pace it in a way where you can make it through that entire day. If you want to be wiped out, it's not going to be a 6-hour day. It's going to be a 30-minute day because I'll wipe you out in the first 30 minutes. You can go home.
Yeah, exactly.
That shows me how mindless they are as well. Because my thing, if you're going to a workshop and you're learning, just to sit there and try to comprehend the information and take it all in, you don't even have to do anything physically. Just listening to all that new material and trying to process it and unlearning all the crap that you learned coming to that, or unlearning all the other things that you were doing before that. That right there should have you wiped out to the point where you're like, okay, you have the physical part too. Like, okay, dude, I'm done for the weekend. Thanks a lot, man.
You should be tired because you're asking so many questions and you're in the instructor's face. Anytime I've taken a course, I'm front row and I'm asking that instructor every question I can think of. I'm there to get my money's worth.
Exactly.
So when people come to the course, my course, they're like, oh, sorry, one more question. I'm like, you don't have to apologize, man. You spent good money. You took time out of your day. You're here. Do it. I would do the same thing you're doing. Ask those questions. Get the most you can out of a course.
Yep. Yeah, it's like when I took Tim Larkin's, class
TFT
2 years ago. Yeah. You're wiped out after that weekend. Completely touched. Yeah. Now, if he had you in there sparring, going full speed, doing, grappling, doing the whole bit, you wouldn't learn what you learn in 2 days. Mm-hmm. The quality of work I'm a lifetime martial artist, and what I learned in 2 days was just mind blowing.
Right.
And from the standpoint of self protection, and he knows that. I've told him that personally. That's I'm not the only one that says that. But what you learn in that intensified, just like with you're talking about a workshop with you. If they wanted to brutalize us physically while we were going through that, you would not retain the information. You'd be so concerned about surviving that it'd be very little carryover that you took home and actually could apply. But in that circumstance, and that was one of the things that I actually learned a lot just on coaching, on the way that they handled, I know it's a whole nother topic, but the way that they handled that whole weekend was something that we can all learn from. Yeah. Because they broke it down and allowed you. I don't know how long it took them to tweak it to get it down to that exact, I'm going to use the word science, that they could, but they got it to where you retained everything beautifully from hour to hour. And then you come back and they touch on things just enough to go back over it, but not to completely rehash it where it becomes monotonous. And then you go to the next stage and you go to the next stage, and then you leave that weekend and you're worn out, but at the same time you're amazed at how much you retain and how much you actually go, I know this now. And so, and that's coming from somebody that already thought they knew a whole bunch. So I was actually at a disadvantage because I could have just started poking holes in things and, well, I would do this differently. And I would do that
and trust me, those people exist all the time, It's just, but I think that comes from right there, experience. And the thing is, dialing it in, the more and more you teach, the more and more you can dial it in, and you can really refine and really break it down to where it's just these little bite-sized morsels that people can actually consume instead of just shoving a whole apple pie in their mouth. It's like, here, man, take a bite of the apple. And
no, again, Tim's the master of that.
Yeah. And also,
Tim's the master of that. He's always refining.
Yeah. And
Tim
being ego-free.
Tim is always recording.
Yeah. Well, what they do, and again, it's something that we can apply to everything that we're doing, is that they find the complex in the simple, and then they simplify the complex. Yeah. So they can take something that is so obviously simple, if you were just to watch somebody do it, where you'd say, well, I don't need to learn how to do that. I already know how to do it. It's kind of like, teaching somebody how to breathe. I'm already breathing. But when you really break it down and teach somebody how to breathe more efficiently, they're amazed at how much better they breathe. And so with that, then the complex stuff becomes simple. So it's kind of this inverse relationship, and training is a lot like that. Keep the simple things, as simple as they are, but get to where somebody's actually paying attention when they're doing the simple things. And then when they have to go to the complex things, whether it's a complex lift, like an Olympic lift, they're able to dial in on that complexity as if it's simple. And I know it's going to go over most people's head what I'm saying, because it sounds like a bunch of, hot air philosophy, but there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth. Now, I don't want to lose what we were talking about, the hypertrophy. Mm-hmm. The difference, okay, we talked about strength. Now, you train for hypertrophy. It's more about density. And again, that's not a new magical term. It's something that most people have heard about. But what is density? Density is not just doing a whole bunch of volume and, again, hoping that you get a good pump that's going to carry over to greater muscle growth. It's about understanding that more quality. Quality's got to be there first. What is quality? Quality means using the right amount of resistance, using the right technique, meaning mechanical integrity again, technical integrity, whatever you want to call it, to make sure that you're sustaining tension in the muscle, because you've got to have tension in the muscle. And it's not so much about counting how many seconds you've got it under load, but just focus on tension, intramuscular tension, and then accumulating some kind of metabolic stress along the way. So we need tension, you need metabolic stress, and then you need some type of muscle damage, eccentric training, something, where you're doing either eccentric accentuation, where you're using both hands to go up, one hand to go down, or, something similar to that, or you're doing eccentrics where you've got a training partner helping you with that. Now, you don't need to do a ton of that, but you do need to do some of it on a consistent basis, and then that would be very regulated. You wouldn't just go, hey, let's knock out, 30 minutes of doing nothing but negatives. You'd be in big trouble then. So you put it in there very judiciously in a program. So if you've got those three components, that would be the perfect recipe for muscle hypertrophy. Brad Schoenfeld has done a great job of clarifying that over the last few years. It's something that I think we all instinctively looked at hypertrophy and go, okay, it's really a combination of, lifting heavy, doing more volume, doing some high reps, a lot of guys have done the, start with, heavy weights and then, finish up with a pump set, things like that. I mean, that's kind of the, simplified way of doing exactly what we're talking about. But it's more of a combination of things. Strength is your emphasis. You can focus on low reps, you can do the 5-3-1 until the cows come home. I think you get bored with it, but I think that there's a lot to be said that's really what you need to do, as long as you're recovering and you're taking some unloading weeks and making sure that your body is recovering, you're mentally staying fresh. I think that you can continue to make good progress on Wendler's program or something similar to that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For size and strength, the density stuff definitely works. I mean, Charles Staley has EDT, which is very effective. And then Ethan Reeve has density training as well that he's written about. And it's basically just doing, let's say you have 30 minutes to work out. The goal is to get more repetitions on whatever you're working on in that 30-minute time frame. So you're just getting more work done in the same time frame. And that definitely leads to size. To not so much strength gains, you'll get some, but more of the hypertrophy.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that most people don't clarify really what their primary objective is.
Right.
And with that, then they complain that they're not getting the result that they want. And I'm like, if you really don't have a designated target on that map, don't complain about the lack of result that you're getting. Now,
right.
Now there'll be certain phases that you'll focus more one on the other. I mean, it's not like you forever have to focus on strength or forever have to focus on hypertrophy, but you definitely, for that period in time, when you touch that weight, what is your objective? Is it to move the load, or are you loading the move? And and I say that because it's an easy way to remember, load the move, remove the load. In other words, if you're just thinking A to B, I got to get this A to B 3 times,
right,
and you're using good technique, you'll get stronger. If you load in a progressive fashion, you'll get stronger. Now, or is it, I'm going to load this move. I'm going to lay on my back. I'm going to do, I'm going to mimic a bench press. I mean, where I've got it, but I'm not going to put a bar in my hands. Now, I need to load this. Because I'm not feeling anything. I'm going through the motion of a bench press, and then you load, and then, if my target is 8 to 10 reps, then I'm going to load sufficient so that I'm at my kinesthetic limit. And what that means, you're positive. I don't like using the word failure, except explaining this, obviously. But if you get to that point where you'd have to change something to get another rep, that's the right load for that rep range.
Right.
You then learn to be able to duplicate that on a consistent basis. I also believe when it comes down to muscle hypertrophy as well as strength, I think training frequency is something that I'm a huge advocate of. I used to think, you could destroy a muscle group, once every, 7 to 10 days, or certainly every 5 to 7 days, and then let it rest and all. Well, I never got any gains. I'm relatively, not a fast gainer by any stretch of the imagination. So hypertrophy comes relatively, at a modest rate for me, always has.
Yeah.
So it's not like I ever got any big gains from that anyway, but certainly now right at 50 years of age, to be able to maintain the muscle that I have, frequency has become, one of my primary tools.
I think frequency is interesting. I mean, that's some exercises such as pressing, I find I have to do frequently to get results. Other exercises such as deadlifts, I like hitting it pretty hard. Like Mark Philippi, Ed Cohen deadlift program, that's a once a week deadlift program, and it's pretty high volume, at least for the first 3 weeks, and then it's fairly high intensity for the rest of it. And it's, even though you're only deadlifting once a week, I find I respond a lot better to that than some of the Russian systems where you're doing low reps with, let's say, 60-70% of your 1 rep max 5 days a week.
No, and I respond very similar to that. And I think what happens, it goes right back to the same thing, is that I know that mentally, if I deadlift any more than once a week, I don't like looking at that bar. And so for me, I've got it's once a week, and I find that I start to crave that movement again, the heavy load again in about a week. It takes about that time. Whereas the other, pull-ups, chin-ups, things like that, if I only did those once a week, I'd stay sore. My elbows would stay sore. And
pull-ups you could do every day. And you'll get, for those of you that want to improve your pull-up, I have a pull-up bar in my backyard. I just go out there several times throughout the day, just bang out a few reps. I do the same thing with pressing. Yeah. That grease in the groove for a lot of exercises really works. I mean, I think you can make it work for deadlifts, but like you said, Vince, even if you're only using 60% of your 1 rep max, it's light, but who wants to do that every day? Who wants to go do that? Who wants to just load up the bar at home and just hit out your 2 sets? I like training the deadlift heavy, and I like training it once a week for the exact reasons you just said, Vince, where after you complete that workout, you don't want to think about the deadlift for a while. But as you get closer to that next workout, you start looking forward to it again. Tomorrow I'm doing deadlifts, and I'm looking forward to it now.
Yeah, and you go, and through trial and error or through time, you start to understand certain exercises are that way. And it kind of dials it in itself. It's not something you have to actually think too much about. You'll find that mentally you're looking forward to that next workout, or mentally you're just absolutely burned out on a weekly basis if you do it any more frequently than that. Now, one thing that I will do that complements, say, a heavy lift like a deadlift is that there's other work that I'll do for the posterior chain throughout the week, and I find that really does help the deadlift big time, whether it's glute ham, raises, things like that. I mean, it's one of those things where it's not like you're completely eliminating any stress to that area. You're just not specifically doing the deadlift. And I find that, and I agree with you, the grease the groove has never really clicked with me with the deadlift for whatever reason. I mean,
even kettlebell swings are beneficial for that, because you're working on that hip hinge and that explosiveness, so you can just kind of just go. So, but at the same time, it's sub-maximal weight, so you're not killing yourself. But and also, it benefits you for the fact, like, however tight and sore you're going to be after that heavy deadlift session that week, a little later on down the line, if you're doing something like kettlebell swings, man, what you're doing is just kind of really, you're kind of massaging and helping those muscles recover a lot faster by moving them again. Not just, okay, I'm going to do the deadlift and I'm not going to do anything that remotely has to do anything with my hips hinging again until next Monday. That right there is doing yourself a disservice as well, because now it's going to take a little longer to warm up, and then you're probably going to wear yourself out trying to prepare your body for another heavy deadlift session a week later by doing that.
Exactly. And I've tried that in the past and actually have had more back problems when I did that. And I'll say this, I learned by watching Mike do the outside the leg kettlebell swing. And we've implemented that in all of our programs now since Mike. So Mike, you deserve the credit on that. Are you kidding me? That is probably the best trap exercise.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Charles, fire, man.
I'm feeling that now, because I haven't done those in a little bit, and I just started doing them again recently, and I did like 5 sets of 12 with double 70s after my deadlift workout. I'm feeling those. I've been feeling those for a few days. Nothing hits the traps like that exercise.
I don't do anything else for traps other than that. And Charles Staley and I were talking about that, and I think it was Brett Contreras he was training with him at the time, and I said, Charles, you've got to try the outside the leg kettlebell swing. And he questioned it. He was like, he couldn't identify with kettlebells at the time. And then, a month later, he did them and sent me this text, said that he can barely touch his traps on both sides, vertical traps, without the tenderness being there. And I told him, I said, I don't understand it. I've never seen, any EMG studies or anything on it, but I'm telling you, man, I mean, the proof is in it. I mean, it's amazing.
You got that, folks? There's no study to affirm that double swings outside the feet hits the traps.
How dare you son of a bitch. Don't you question the science.
But the personal study is that your traps are super sore the next day, and that's kind of valid, right? No, I learned about it from a guy named, I forget his name now. He posted as Green Ghost when I used to post on the Dragon Door forum back in the day, and then a few other forums. Really strong guy. Eddie's his first name. I forget his last name. And he's actually the guy who turned me on to the whole swings outside the feet, double snatches outside the feet, and double swings. And he's a really strong guy. He was using 100-pound kettlebells each hand for lots of repetitions and so forth. So I actually played around with it after talking to him, and then I just found it was a nice fit for my body type. I do both versions just because I think there's pros and cons of each, but my preference is definitely outside the feet.
Yeah, and I think that it's something we were talking about the deadlift. What is a complementary drill for the deadlift, say on a 2 days later or something like that type situation, and that does it right there. I mean, I do both versions like you every week in relatively high volume in both. I don't really look at it as a strength move as much anymore, but it's
me too.
But it's and then conditioning wise, I mean, it's all you have to do is wear a heart rate monitor, and you pretty much can quell any kind of
10 sets of 10, 45-second breaks. Yeah. That's serious conditioning work.
Exactly.
That's simple too. Just 10 sets of 10 double swings outside the feet, chest level or slightly above.
No
if you want to make it harder, do 25 Hindu squats in between.
There you go.
Said. If you really want to have a complete lower body workout, simple. You could do that anytime. It's incredible.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Or you could just turn it into a front squat. You can go, just clean the bells up and do front squat too. Low reps in the front squat while you're doing high reps on the swings outside the legs. And that's another good combination. Say if you're doing 5s and 10s, but you're going to need to set the weights down in between. So basically what you do is a 5-rep set of front squat, depending on what load you're using. But you can, obviously you can go ahead and load it up like you're talking about, maybe the 32s. And then bring them down, swing them outside, rest for 30 seconds, and then hit it again. So you're doing 5s and 10s all the way through, and that's another real good, especially like I said, on one of those days that are maybe 2 days removed from a heavy front squat, heavy deadlift day, or something like that.
Yeah, it mimics the deadlift nicely for me because I use a close stance when I deadlift. I use a close stance, and my grip width is fairly close as well. I just found that works really well for me. So it's a version of the kettlebell swing that mimics the way I deadlift. So I think there's a nice transfer as well.
Right. No doubt. No argument here, man.
Let's get into some stuff where we can create some arguments. You have any more pet peeves? What do you think about one of the things that we actually talked about last week is like our friend Scott Shetler made a good point in one of his books talking about he didn't say that he doesn't care about studies, but he made a point of saying, look, there's a lot of things I've learned which are not backed up by studies, and I don't give them any less credibility just by the fact that they don't have any double-blind study to back it up. Where do you fall on the whole thing on the importance of studies?
I think studies, for me anyway, they basically confirm stuff that we know more than they're giving us something that's new. Right. And I know, and I know that any of my scientific buddies out there, they're probably not buddies anymore, but because I know they make a livelihood off of that. And hey, look, I'll read the stuff. I mean, it's not like I'm looking at it and saying that it's got no benefit whatsoever, but I do see that it tends to confirm stuff that we know, and as opposed to completely changing our thought processes on anything. I mean, I've yet to see any study when it comes down to training that we can really look at and say, okay, 25 years ago, I thought this, and now because of this coming out, I completely have changed my view on everything. Now, from a practical sense, from a things that just I now do better than I did 25 years ago, absolutely. But it's not because of, a scientific study that came out that caused me to completely throw everything, that I was doing out the door. And I've kept journals, for as long as I've been doing this. And I look back at it and I go, some of the stuff that I literally was doing 25, 30 years ago, it's not, I'm doing it better now, hopefully, but it's not like I'm doing it that much different than then. I mean, whether, program design has gotten better. Obviously, the stuff that we talk about, where you're putting mobility stuff in, you have better understanding of technique, better understanding of how to squat and deadlift and all that. But I mean, we're still squatting and deadlifting, and we're still, pushing and pulling stuff. I mean, it's
right.
And then, now we're doing weighted carries, and it's like, that's stuff that we were doing way back. We didn't call it anything. We just picked stuff up and carried it, knew it was challenging, and knew that something good was happening when we were doing it. And now it's like in every time I see a program, suitcase carry, waiter's walk carry and all this. And I'm like, well, there's nothing brand new about that. That's right. Stuff that we were doing. It's basically a moving plank.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, that would probably be another one of the pet peeves, is that I think we're getting overwhelmed by this new age stuff that's outside the box. And it's like, no, it's been in the box all along. It's been there, but somebody's, basically, smash the box up and then call it a new box. I mean, it's nuts. It's all been there. And it's just a matter of how you it depends on, and another thing, it depends on who's telling you, what it is. If it's
and what's their motivation behind it. Yeah. It's like, okay, what are you selling me, man? When you name this stuff, that's another thing in our industry. They're trying to sell us something by calling it all this other stuff.
Well, it's all about marketing. You market something and you can call it something, and it's like, two people can say the exact same thing, show the exact same drill. One person's going to be a superstar, and the other person's going to be, some knucklehead that just came up with something that, looks kind of silly, and
so whenever there's alarmist methods that are utilized, that's usually a red flag. Mm-hmm. If you don't do this, you're going to be missing out on this. You're going to be screwed and all that. There's a really good book out there. I want to get the author on the show. It's called The Gluten Lie. And he really breaks down where this whole anti-gluten ideology came from. And it basically just to get to the point with this is that if you have celiac disease, which is serious, that's a serious autoimmune disorder, then you absolutely have to avoid grains. But what they extrapolated is they're saying, okay, it's bad for people with celiac. So it's probably bad for people who don't have it. So no one should eat grains. And that's a very poor extrapolation. Just because something is bad for a very small percentage of the population doesn't mean that it's even an issue at all for anyone else. So if you don't have celiac, there really isn't an issue with gluten, with grains for most people.
Yeah, and I think we could see that across the board. Gluten is a hot topic right now, or gluten free. So I think that's a very appropriate thing. But I think it's a microcosm in a lot of ways to what we're seeing, in fitness in general. Don't ever do this. Speaking in absolutes, people. Anything spoken in absolutes, I always basically tell everybody ignore it, because somebody trying to sell you something, or somebody trying to, create a career off of an absolute, off of an extreme statement that, and there is no such thing, and then they try to get the herd of followers through that, to everybody jump on board. And then the thing is that there's going to be a little bit of truth in every absolute statement, or you can even make the statement. So when somebody, like you said, they use anecdotal evidence, they make an extreme statement and they say, well, and they point over here and say, well, this, and this. I mean, it's like, okay, playing basketball, makes you tall, because tall people play basketball, and then somebody, I'm going to take up, I want to add 5 inches. So I'm going to start playing basketball. I'm going to make sure, my 5 kids play basketball. And so it's that kind of stuff right there where you're making these statements just to get an effect. But the scary part, a lot of these people really believe they're crap, and so it's not like they're saying it and they're going, well, I'm manipulating people, for either prestige or.
Here's the thing with people is that if you say things in a convincing manner, you have absolute conviction, then a lot of people are going to believe it, because a lot of us want to be manipulated. We want to be fooled. And we also want to believe that someone knows more than we do.
Exactly.
So, there have been times where I talk about hormone optimization stuff and people are like, wow, you really know your stuff. And I go, how do you know whether I know my stuff or not? You don't know enough to know whether I know my stuff.
Big words I can't pronounce. Yeah. That's why, Mike. So,
right.
And I can't even look them up in the dictionary, so you must know something.
No, but it's more the delivery, though. So if you say something with conviction, this is what every master hustler does, right? Like you watch these shows like American Greed. You watch these shows and you're watching these shows going, man, how do these people get hoodwinked? And the reality is it's not that hard, because one, we want to be convinced. And two, if someone's very good at convincing, then, well, there you go. It's a nice matchup.
Yeah, and the thing in the field of fitness, and this is another thing, I just now had a brain fart and it just came back to me that I was going to touch on. Any field you can call the fitness field, call it the, strength and conditioning field, that it actually is easier to enter with accreditation, certification type stuff, where you can get, they have things on ESPN now where they advertise getting certified in a weekend or through the internet or whatever it is, and then they guarantee that you're going to have a job within whatever, you get your money back. Any kind of profession,
24-hour fitness, you'll have a job.
Yeah, well, but any kind of profession where it actually is easier to enter the field because of certifications, instead of it being the other way around. Because, as we well know, certifications are fine. You do them, whatever. I mean, I did them way back and do them.
I hate certifications, man. I'm just going to say it. I just hate the whole concept. I hate the whole concept.
I just had this discussion, man.
I didn't want to ruin it. I didn't want to ruin
No,
it.
I don't teach certifications. People always ask me, how come you never did a kettlebell certification? I just do not believe in the concept at all, because I'll tell you what, I spent 4 months training with top strength coach Mark Philippi. I learned more in those 4 months than the last 10 years. You can't possibly learn what I learned in those 4 months in a weekend. I don't care who's teaching it, or even 3 days, 4 days a week. So if you want to get really skilled at something, go find somebody who's great. If someone came to you, Vince, and was your apprentice for 4 months, they are going to leave with a wealth of knowledge and confidence and information.
And the thing is, there are very few that are willing to go through that. Yeah, that's the thing. They want it now. They want it. What they want is they use charisma instead of actually being able to coach anybody, to teach anybody. And it goes right back to are you a coach or are you a cheerleader? They think that if they can just get somebody to believe that they know enough to cause that person to think, or that group of people to believe that they're, quote, experts in what they do, then they've got a career. They, at least for the week.
Here's the thing. No, no. Go ahead, Vince. I'll touch on it. Just go ahead and finish.
No, the point is that it's only when you're doing enough work, where you're working with enough different people, because it goes right back to none of us are exactly the same, where you've had to tweak programs that you designed, where you've flat out designed what you thought was a perfect program, and then you realize, hey, I've got to keep this thing alive. I've got to change something here. I've got to adjust because something's not clicking. Something's not. You cannot learn that in a certification. You can't learn it in a weekend. You can't learn it in a year. You've got to learn it through being in the trenches and going over and over and over again, having to do what you thought was best, and then realize, wait a minute, nah. And that was not enough. I've got to do something different.
You have to create your own opportunity. I mean, if you're gonna, I mean, there. Not to say that you can't learn a lot at a certification, but that's not where the learning process ends. It should be the very beginning of it. Yeah, exactly. It's where it starts. So when I first got certified as a kettlebell instructor with Dragon Door back in 2002, I didn't just start training people right after the course. I actually volunteered to work with some volunteer firefighters for I think it was about 6 weeks, and I would train them once a week. And I learned a lot about how to instruct people, what works, what's not effective. And if this is something where they're not paying me, it's completely free. So I learned, I knew enough that I'm not going to hurt these people, but I didn't have confidence in how to teach people effectively. But since they're not paying for it, it was really a non-issue. And you're not going to you can't complain about the instruction when it's free. So it was a good audience. But I tell you what, after that 6 weeks, I was really confident to take it to the marketplace now. I was like, okay, I got this down now.
Yeah, and here's one more thing to consider. It's not just in this field. It's not just about, you're in an industry where, you just certify people over a weekend and boom, they're coming out as experts. What's really feeding this is the fact that this is an industry that is in demand by people who they want that savior to come in. They want something to believe in. They want to just accept something so it can take a little more responsibility off them. So instead of them having to go out and do research on their own or try to figure out what's working for them and what's not, they need this expert to come and tell them this is how it is and that's when you can come in and be that guy that's all very convincing by what you say. Even when you talk about things like American greed, it's like, okay, deep down inside, a lot of these so-called quote-unquote victims on American greed, the thing is, they're just as greedy as the person that took them for all the money. But the thing is, they didn't have the freaking balls to go out and take that greed to the extreme. They were just greedy just enough, but they wanted to seem like they weren't that greedy. So they were thinking like, well, right, I want more, but I don't really want to tell everybody I want more. They're feeling guilty about it. But then here comes someone saying, you want more. just like I want more. We're going to get more together. And then all of a sudden, like, well, when you put it like that, hell yeah, I want more. Then go get it for me, and I'll be right here. Take my money and bring me back more. They're trying to keep their hands clean of the situation, but your hands are not clean. Your hands are not clean in this situation. So, and then when it comes out that this person has took their money and disappeared, now all of a sudden these other greedy bastards are mad. Like, I can't believe he did this to me. Yes, you can, because you were passively doing the same thing to someone else. You had planned on doing that. You just weren't crafty enough to know how to do it on your own, or you didn't have the balls to do it, and you passed it off to someone else. And that's what happens with a lot of fitness programs.
You're only susceptible. You're only susceptible to this scam because you're only susceptible to this scam because you're greedy as well. So you're absolutely correct.
Exactly. It's game recognized game, folks. That's what it comes down to. It's not like he just walked up behind you, stuck a gun in your back, and said, "Give me your wallet," and he ran off. That's a different type of robbery right there. But when you sit there like, hey, I got this great new investment coming up, and you're clearly going to make 20% return on your investment within 6 months. Okay, again, if it sounds too good to be true, then damn it, it is. So guess what? That's the same equivalent of, I can show you how to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. That is the same equivalent of you getting a 20% return on your investment 6 months later from an investment. Okay, it's the same thing. It's the same. You're still duping yourself here because you're not taking that responsibility. You want that quick out. And you don't care who.
Well, whenever someone talks about how easy something is going to be, that's another red flag. Exactly. Remember, Ice-T said that people come to him all the time going, "Oh man, we should try this out. We'll make millions easily." And then Ice-T will go, "Well, if it's going to be so easy, then let's open up an escrow account and go ahead and put half in now, and then when we make the rest of the millions in whatever time frame you suggested, you can put the rest in there." Then it's like, oh well, wait a minute. Nothing is easy. Whether it's getting stronger, whether it's building a business, where it's being a service to your community, none of those things are easy. So that anytime someone says it's easy, simple in terms of application, in terms of getting started, but in terms of achieving monumental things, that's never been easy.
The tough part's always being consistent. See, that's the thing. It's the follow through. It's easy to make that first contact. It's easy to make that first, impression. And then it's what do you do in the follow up? How can you close the deal? When I mean by club, I'm not talking about from a business perspective. I'm just saying, what are you doing to follow up, to make sure to confirm, to reinforce the thing that you started? And that's what most people tend to not want to do, certainly in our field. They want to make that initial impact. They want to scream and yell, be a little bit more charismatic than the next guy, develop that fraternity mentality, get enough people to jump on board with them, because nobody likes it. These same people don't like to be loners. Okay. They got to have those people surround them that are running their mouths, that are, good job, the Me Too mentality with everything that they do. And that's what reinforces, and that's what creates that monster. And then from there,
a lot of people in our industry want to be celebrities, and that's one of my pet peeves. Is that are you a fitness expert or are you a celebrity? It's like, I want to be on TV, I want to be on the Today Show, I want to write a book and have actors give me testimonials, And I just think that's the wrong mindset.
Sure. Do you go into it with the mentality of, I'm going to do this for me, or are you really going in to serve people? And I know that gets right back to, well, hey, we all go into it. Yeah, I earn a living doing what I do. I mean, it's I don't know what I would do if I didn't do this. I'd be in my family's car business, being a miserable son of a gun. But the thing is that, but from there, it's all about serving people. You don't have longevity, and you've got to have longevity in our field. You can't just do it for, you're not going to get rich. Unless you're sincere in 5 years, right? I mean, sincere. That's what I heard. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not.
I didn't get that.
I heard
memo.
that it took you about 5 years, and then
That's from selling the ganja, man.
Yeah, there we go. but the thing is that it's all about
Texas,
longevity.
Why not?
It's about longevity. I thought those oil rigs out there were yours. Those aren't yours. I saw some kettlebells out on one of them. I just thought, I don't know. But anyway.
Someone's going to open up a gun store in Texas where they sell weed too.
Hey man, keep approving all these different bills. Why not?
Yeah. It's like guns and weed.
Guns and weed. Perfect combination,
But nobody likes consistency. So that's the thing. Nobody likes to do. I mean, because as much as we love what we do, you don't want to do it every day. You do.
We all know people who work out hard once and then they never do it again. They celebrate that one time for 6 months and then they realize, man, I never got number 2, 3, 4, 5 in.
I worked out once.
You're as good as your next workout. I mean, that's the whole and for as long as you're here, you're as good as your next workout. I mean, there's no such thing as, okay, check, done.
I think you really have to enjoy the process, right, to be consistent. If you're so focused on where you're trying to go that the present is miserable, that's just a battle of attrition, which you will inevitably lose.
Yeah, and the thing is, like we're talking about on those days that you're just not feeling it, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, show up and do, and that goes against what we talked about earlier. It's not about just show up and do something. Show up and basically take the pressure to beat what you did last time off of you. In other words, go through mechanically sound, work, do basically, your same workout, but just take the expectation of I've got to set a new personal record today.
I think on days like that, I think it's fun just to try some new stuff. Like you never use the machines, go hit the machines for a workout, just for the hell of it, just to try something different.
And you find out that you end up having, in some cases, you end up having one of your better workouts too, just because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, something about expectations, man. You're just kind of setting yourself up for failure. I mean, it's good to have goals, but expectations is just something a little bit different. It's like, I'm going to nail this number today. You already got it fixed in your head. I'm getting this number. And then God forbid something goes wrong. Because here's the thing you're not also factoring in. How well did you sleep? How well did you eat? What was going on the day before? Did you teach a course over the weekend? Hell, is it more humid today in Texas than it was last week when you actually got that other number that you hit? All these different things factor in. So many environmental elements factor into it that you don't even think about. And then when you don't hit that number in your mind, you think like, oh, hell, I'm weak. I've lost it. Obviously this program's not working for me. No, all the elements just that day weren't in your favor. So go do something else where it's going to be in your favor. And then you're still leaving with a victory for that day. And then it carries over. And then next week, boom, you hit that number, or just be like, okay, I didn't hit it today, so I didn't fail. Today I'm actually going to learn what went into today that probably deterred me from hitting that number. So the thing is,
a lot of times it's good. A lot of times it's good to hit a PR without preparing yourself to. What I mean by that is if you're like, okay, next Wednesday I'm going for a max. Now the whole week, what are you thinking about next Wednesday? Sometimes you go to the gym and you're just like, man, I'm really strong today, and then and you weren't even planning on going for a PR that day. But for whatever reason, you're doing your warm up sets. You're like, everything feels light. It's just coming right off the floor. Screw it. I'm going to go for it today. And I've had some of my best workouts using that mindset. But when I have something on the calendar, like, okay, a month from now I'm going for this, then as you get closer to that date, it starts building up more anxiety about it.
Well, it's the anticipatory anxiety, And
the
thing
exactly.
is that the longer you're in this, it actually has a very negative effect on you. And so it is one of those things where you have to have a certain level of maturity where you know that, hey, there are going to be some days I'm just not feeling it. But when you take that demand off of you, realize that there are fewer and fewer. So that you actually have more quality days than you do the other way around. And I saw something where somebody said, well, you're basically going to have one really high quality day. You're going to have one day that's really low quality. And then you're going to have two that are kind of in the middle. And there's probably some truth to that. But the key is those ones in the middle, they need to be above water, where you've got, or above, your head above water. You've got to make sure that those in the middle days, if you're going to throw the two extremes out, you've got to, it's what you do in those in between days. They can't just be that, dull in the middle where they never have any level of progress. It's the level. In other words, say on a scale of 1 to 10, instead of them being a 5, they need to be a 7. So if you had a 10 and you had a 2, instead of them being 2 5s, look at it and say, hey, if I can bump this up to a 7 and then a 7.5, then over the course of time, that's where you get progress from. It's not the extreme days where, man, I had this crappy day and I had this day that was off the charts. It's those in the middle. What are you doing with those days?
Yeah, you use that. That's good dating advice right there too.
Yeah, exactly. Don't go from a 10 to a 2.
Don't just think like, hey, I got these 2 5s right here at the same time, so that's a 10. All right, it's a good day.
Exactly.
Well, shit, 3 3s almost there.
Hey, 90 is Hey, man, 90 is an A if I was back in school, so why not?
Awesome, man. Hey, Vince, appreciate you coming on, man. We don't want to keep you all day, but it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Wealth of knowledge. Where can people find out more about what you have going on?
We're working on our website right now. We're redesigning. We're actually gonna get one that's up to modern times, and so be looking out on that. I'll keep you up to date on that, Mike, and sincere when that comes out. But Facebook is the best place. Just check it out. I'm putting new videos up all the time on that. Just hit me up with a friend request, and then you get obviously all the information there. And I'm on Instagram. I'm on all that other social media stuff, Twitter and everything else. And, trying to put, new stuff up all the time that hopefully can help a few people. And, that's probably the best until we get our website up, which will be McConnellathletics.com when it's up and running in the next few weeks.
Do you do phone consults or
online
training as well? Okay.
Phone consults as well as via email. Phone consult, our number, 251-990-6202. Again, 251-990-6202. Or send me a direct email at McConnellathletics@gmail.com. McConnellathletics@gmail.com.
You should have said, call me now for your free time. Thanks a lot. Thanks again, Vince, man. It's a pleasure talking to you, and we'll definitely have you back again soon.
Always a privilege, guys. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks again. You have a great day.
All right. You guys too.
Thank you. Okay, again, folks, that was our friend Vince McConnell. Check him out at McConnellathletics.com, and make sure to check out our respective websites by using that coupon code LLA. Go to MikeMahler.com or AggressiveStrength.com and get 10% off any of my nutrition supplements. And the testosterone booster works for guys over 50 and guys below 50 too. So make sure you check out those testimonials and see the different ages of people that have been providing feedback to me. And by the way, it works for me, and I'm way below 50. The whole reason I'm selling it is because it works for me. So to say it only works for guys over 50, come on, man. Do some research, read the website before you make those kind of ignorant comments. And then you can also get videos, my lectures, ebooks. You know the drill. Use that coupon code, get 10% off. Now, how about with you, man?
Same thing. Go to newwarriortraining.com. Use the same coupon code, 10% off all my products over there. DVD, my weight management course, Sharia doors over there. New Sharia doors are coming, but go ahead and knock out all the ones we have over there right now. And we're almost out of those. And also you can get that from the ebooks over there as well. So 10% off all those products. And also, make sure you hop over to iTunes or Stitcher. Leave us a review, folks, and rate us. Again, as Mike said in the last show, by June, we're trying to get this up to about 200. Trying to get to 200 reviews. We're about 175 now. So we can get that done. I mean, here we are in the middle of May. We can knock that out with all the listeners that we have on the show and all you guys out there. Hey, it doesn't have to be a long, elaborate thesis or anything like that. Just state like, hey, this is why I like the show. And hit that rating, hit that review, and it's done. Just like that, and you can go on about your day. So
some people probably feel that, I'm just waiting for those guys to offer something free for leaving a review.
Hold on.
That was year one.
As of this date right now, that we are now upon our second year of doing this show, that was 2 years ago. Okay.
That's what you do when you're brand new and you're trying to get things going. We've got this thing going now. Exactly. So now you should leave a review for the show because you think it's great. You've been listening for all this free information for a long time, and you want to give back. You want to reciprocate. You want to feel good about yourself.
So there you go. And one last thing, make sure that you hop over to patreon.com/LLA podcast. Become a patron of the show. Support it on a monthly basis. In that little box where it asks for your pledge, take out that $1. Don't be that guy. Okay, don't be that guy. Now, here's the thing. If that's all you can do, now, I know Mike has an opinion about that. If that's all you can give, then go for it. But, my thing is erase that. Start with $5. If you can give more than that, then, go for that too. Mike will simply say, all you can do is give $1. You need to go out and do something else. Instead of sitting around listening to podcasts, you need to be doing something else. There's some things in your life that need some arranging and some changes going on there. So,
No, it's true. And right now, most of the people that are donating funds are people that buy both of our products, and that's nice. That's really nice of them, but we put this in line for those of you that, for whatever reason, don't want to buy products from either one of us. Maybe there's just things that you're just not interested in, which is okay. Now, here's an opportunity for you to say, I want to support that show, and that's why we put this option together. So take advantage of it.
There you go, folks. So lots of ways you can support the show that supports you.